What if the CEO's daughter went undercover as a janitor, only to uncover a culture of corruption, abuse, and injustice? When Ava Kingston steps into her father's company in disguise, she witnesses the shocking truth about those in power. But when the truth comes out, she doesn't just expose them, she destroys them. Justice is coming. And they never saw it coming. The air inside Kingston Enterprises' towering skyscraper was thick with the scent of polished mahogany and freshly brewed Colombian coffee. The lobby gleamed with marble floors so pristine they reflected the soft glow of the chandelier above. The distant hum of printers and hushed conversations from employees moving briskly through the halls created a symphony of corporate efficiency. Outside, the New York City skyline stretched beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, a testament to the company's immense success. At the very top of this empire sat Lawrence Kingston, a self-made billionaire and the founder of Kingston Enterprises. His name was synonymous with power, ambition, and an uncompromising work ethic. Yet, today, all eyes were on his daughter, Ava Kingston, a woman born into wealth yet determined to prove herself beyond her father's legacy. Ava was no ordinary heiress. With degrees from Harvard and Stanford, she possessed both intellect and an unshakable determination. But there was one problem: whispers of corporate toxicity and mistreatment of lower-level employees had reached her ears. She could have easily ordered an internal audit, but that wasn't her style. She wanted the truth firsthand. And so, she made a bold decision. In just a few hours, Ava Kingston, the billionaire's daughter, would no longer exist. Instead, she would become just another face in the crowd, a cleaner navigating the very halls her family owned. But what she would uncover would change everything. Dressed in faded jeans, a baggy gray t-shirt, and scuffed sneakers, Ava Kingston barely recognized herself as she stepped through the service entrance of Kingston Enterprises. Gone were the designer heels, the tailored suits, and the air of authority that had always surrounded her. In their place stood a woman the world would overlook, a simple cleaner. She adjusted the stiff janitorial uniform, its fabric scratchy against her skin, and pulled a cap low over her eyes. She had rehearsed this moment 100 times, but now that she was here, anxiety crept in. Could she really do this? Could she blend in, unnoticed, in a company where her last name carried immeasurable weight? The air inside the janitorial closet was thick with the scent of industrial cleaner and sweat. The harsh fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead. She picked up a mop, the weight unfamiliar in her hands, and stepped onto the floor. A Kingston, reduced to a nameless worker. Her first task led her to the executive floor, where she had spent countless afternoons visiting her father's office. Now, she was invisible. Employees brushed past her without a second glance, their conversations flowing freely as if she didn't exist. That's when she saw it. A woman, middle-aged, with tired eyes and a weary frame, stood near the copy machine. She was trembling, her hands gripping a stack of papers so tightly her knuckles turned white. Across from her, a man in a tailored navy suit loomed over her. Oliver Grant. Ava recognized him instantly. He was one of her father's senior managers, known for his ruthless efficiency. His voice, sharp and cold, sliced through the quiet hallway. "I don't care if your mother's in the hospital, Angela. You were supposed to have these reports on my desk this morning." I tried," Angela stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "My shift ended late and my mother needed me." Oliver scoffed. "Not my problem. You should be grateful you even have a job here. If you can't handle it, maybe you shouldn't be working at all." Ava felt a fire ignite in her chest. She had grown up around powerful men, had seen them command boardrooms with an iron fist. But this was cruelty. Angela's eyes darted to the floor, her shoulders sagging under the weight of shame. Ava clenched her mop tighter, fighting the instinct to rip off her disguise and put Oliver in his place. But she couldn't, not yet. Instead, she stepped forward and did something no one in that hallway dared to do. She spoke. "Excuse me, sir," she said, keeping her voice steady. "I can help her." Oliver turned, his gaze barely registering her presence. "And who the hell are you?" "Just a cleaner," she said, lowering her eyes. "But I know how to sort reports. I can stay late and help Angela organize them." Angela's eyes widened in surprise. Oliver, however, let out a harsh laugh. A cleaner wants to handle financial reports? He smirked. What, do you think this is a charity? You people are here to mop floors, not stick your noses where they don't belong. The words "you people" made Ava's stomach churn. The way he said it, like Angela, like all the janitors were beneath him, made her blood boil. She forced herself to swallow her rage. Now wasn't the time. Angela shook her head quickly. No, it's okay. I'll figure it out. Oliver scoffed. Good. And don't make this mistake again, or I won't be so forgiving. With that, he turned and disappeared into his office, leaving nothing but silence in his wake. Angela let out a shaky breath and turned to Ava. Thank you, she whispered. But you shouldn't have done that. People like him, they don't forget. Ava nodded slowly, her mind racing. She had come here to see if the rumors were true. And in just a few hours, she had already witnessed more cruelty than she could stomach. This wasn't just about observing anymore. This was personal. And Ava Kingston wasn't going to stand for it. Ava couldn't sleep that night. The sight of Angela's defeated expression and Oliver's scornful smirk replayed in her mind. She had expected to find inefficiencies, maybe even unprofessional behavior, but she hadn't expected this level of blatant mistreatment. As she lay on the stiff cot in her small rented apartment, far from the luxury she was accustomed to, she made a silent vow. She wasn't just here to observe anymore. She was here to fight. The next morning, she arrived at work earlier than scheduled, blending in with the other janitors as they clocked in. The break room smelled of stale coffee and exhaustion. Angela sat at a corner table, stirring a cup of instant coffee, her movements slow and weary. Ava grabbed a mop and pretended to inspect it, subtly glancing at Angela. Rough night? She asked casually. Angela sighed, her fingers tightening around the paper cup. My mother's health is getting worse. I barely slept. She hesitated before adding, and I stayed late fixing those reports. Just in case. Ava clenched her jaw. No one should have to live like this, working herself to the bone while caring for a sick parent, all while fearing a boss's wrath. Angela offered a weak smile. But that's life, right? You just have to take it. Ava shook her head. Or change it. Angela laughed softly. That's a nice thought. But people like us? We don't have that power. Ava didn't argue. Not yet. For the next few days, Ava immersed herself in the underbelly of Kingston Enterprises, the unseen, unappreciated workforce that kept the empire running. And what she uncovered sickened her. She watched as a janitor named Marcus, a single father, was berated for taking too long to clean the executive bathrooms, never mind that he was covering 2 absent shifts. She witnessed a young woman, Danielle, reduced to tears after being humiliated for misplacing a file, even though it was a manager's mistake. She heard the whispers of fear, the quiet suffering, the understanding that speaking up meant losing everything. And all the while, Oliver Grant and a handful of other managers carried themselves like kings, oblivious to the hardship they inflicted. One afternoon, she was mopping near the conference room when she overheard Oliver laughing with 2 other executives. I swear, these janitors act like they deserve raises, Oliver scoffed. For what? Wiping desks? Hell, I could replace all of them tomorrow and no one would notice. Ava gripped her mop so tightly her knuckles turned white. They would notice soon enough. Despite the cruelty, there were still moments of warmth. Marcus often cracked jokes, lightening the mood in the break room. Danielle, though quiet, always shared her snacks, a silent act of kindness. Angela, despite everything, still smiled whenever someone asked about her mother. It reminded Ava of something her father once told her. Leadership isn't about power, Ava. It's about people. She finally understood what that meant. And it was time to act. That Friday, Oliver stormed into the janitorial supply closet, his face twisted in anger. Ava and Angela had just finished cleaning the executive lounge when he threw a stack of papers onto the counter. These reports are late again, he snapped, glaring at Angela. I warned you, didn't I? Angela paled. I triple-checked them. They were on your desk by 6. Oliver sneered. And yet, here we are. Maybe you're just not cut out for this job. Ava had had enough. Or maybe, she said, standing taller, someone moved them to make her look bad. Oliver turned on her. Excuse me? Ava didn't back down. I saw Angela deliver those files yesterday. Someone must have misplaced them. Oliver scoffed. Oh, so now the janitor thinks she knows how this company works? Ava took a step forward, her eyes blazing. Yeah. And soon, the right people will know exactly how you treat employees. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in Oliver's expression. You better watch yourself, he hissed. You don't know who you're messing with. Ava smirked. No, Oliver. You don't. He stormed out, leaving a tense silence in his wake. Angela turned to Ava, her hands trembling. What did you just do? Ava smiled knowingly. I did what I came here to do. That night, Ava sent a message from a secure, anonymous email. To Lawrence Kingston. Subject, urgent, investigate Oliver Grant and employee conditions. By Monday, the real storm would begin. And Ava Kingston would no longer be just a cleaner. She would be the reckoning. The storm Ava had set in motion arrived faster than expected. Monday morning, the atmosphere in Kingston Enterprises was tense. Whispers spread like wildfire through the halls. Something was happening. Something big. Ava walked in one last time as a janitor, but she knew it would be the last time she'd wear this uniform. She had spent the weekend preparing. After gathering witness statements, hidden recordings, and written testimonies from mistreated employees, she had compiled an airtight report detailing the abuse, discrimination, and toxic leadership plaguing the company. She sent it directly to Lawrence Kingston at dawn. And now, the moment of reckoning had arrived. At 9 a.m. sharp, an email from the CEO's office hit every inbox in the building. Mandatory company-wide meeting, executive floor, 10 a.m. Ava smirked as she tightened her ponytail. Showtime. At exactly 10 a.m., the executive conference room was packed. Department heads, managers, senior staff, and even lower-level employees, everyone stood, murmuring in confusion. At the head of the room stood Lawrence Kingston, his expression unreadable. Ava positioned herself near the back, still wearing her cleaner's uniform, blending in just long enough to see their faces when the truth dropped. The CEO cleared his throat. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce someone. Silence. Lawrence gestured toward the back. Ava, would you like to step forward? The murmuring stopped instantly. Ava inhaled sharply. This was it. She peeled off the cap that had hidden her face and stepped forward, walking past stunned employees who had ignored her for weeks. The executive's eyes widened. Whispers turned into gasps. The cleaner was the CEO's daughter. Ava stood beside her father and surveyed the room. Oliver's face had drained of color. Good morning, she said, her voice calm yet commanding. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ava Kingston. And for the past few weeks, I've been working here, as a cleaner. More gasps. A few people shifted uncomfortably. I did this because I wanted to see how this company truly operates from the ground level. I wanted to see if the culture we claim to have is real. She paused, letting her gaze fall on Oliver. And what I found was sickening. A screen flickered to life behind her, displaying a hidden camera video, one where Oliver berated Angela, his cruel words echoing through the silent room. Another clip played, a manager mocking a janitor, telling him he was replaceable. Muffled gasps rippled through the room. Some managers paled as they recognized their own voices. Oliver sprang from his chair. This is absurd. This is... Sit down. The authority in Lawrence Kingston's voice was enough to make Oliver freeze. Ava continued. For too long, employees here have been mistreated, belittled, dehumanized, and no one has held these people accountable. She turned to her father, her voice steady and unwavering. That changes today. Lawrence nodded, then turned toward Oliver. Effective immediately, you're fired. The room exploded with whispers. Oliver's face twisted in rage. You can't do this to me. I've worked for this company for far too long, Lawrence cut in. And from what I've seen, your time here has been nothing but a stain on our company's integrity. Two security guards stepped forward. You'll be escorted out. Oliver's fury boiled over. He turned to Ava. You think you're some kind of hero? You're just a spoiled brat playing dress-up. Ava didn't flinch. She had won. Oliver was dragged out, his protests fading as the doors closed behind him. Lawrence turned to the room. This company was built on the values of hard work and respect. And somewhere along the way, we lost sight of that. His eyes swept over the executives. But that changes today. We are implementing immediate policy changes, wage increases for janitorial staff, anonymous HR reporting, and the termination of any leader found guilty of workplace abuse. A stunned silence followed. Then, applause erupted from the back of the room. The janitors, the assistants, the overlooked employees finally seeing justice. Ava let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. This was what real power looked like. Not just sitting in a boardroom. Not just signing checks. But making a difference. And she had only just begun. The aftermath of the meeting sent shockwaves through Kingston Enterprises. By the end of the day, Oliver Grant had been escorted out of the building, his protests drowned in the quiet satisfaction of those who had suffered under his leadership. A handful of other toxic managers received their own termination notices, their reigns of intimidation and cruelty brought to a swift and public end. For the first time in years, there was hope in the company's lower ranks. Ava walks the halls, it changed company. The next morning, Ava walked through the halls, not as a cleaner, not as a spy, but as herself. Employees who had once ignored her now acknowledged her presence with nods of respect. Some even smiled. The janitors and assistants, those who had been dismissed as invisible, walked with their heads a little higher. She found Angela near the break room, refilling her coffee cup. Angela turned, startled. Ava. She hesitated before correcting herself. Miss Kingston. Ava smiled. Just Ava. Angela shook her head in disbelief. I still can't believe you. You were here with us this whole time. Ava shrugged. I needed to see things for myself. She hesitated before adding, I read your resignation letter. Angela's eyes dropped. I was scared. I didn't know what else to do. Ava placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You don't need to quit. In fact, I was hoping you'd stay. Angela's brows furrowed. Stay? After everything? Ava nodded. Not as an assistant. As the new head of employee relations. Angela gasped. What? But I don't have experience. You have everything that matters, Ava interrupted. You know what it's like to be on the receiving end of bad leadership. I need someone who truly understands what employees go through. Angela's hands trembled. Ava, I don't know what to say. Say yes. Tears welled in Angela's eyes before she nodded. Yes. Ava grinned. One wrong had been made right. Justice for the overlooked. Elsewhere, Marcus, the janitor who had been humiliated, was shocked to receive a pay raise along with the rest of the custodial staff. He nearly dropped his mop when he read the email announcement. New minimum wage adjustment and employee protections effective immediately. Kingston Enterprises is committed to ensuring all employees are valued and respected. All janitorial and lower-level staff will receive a 20% wage increase and additional health benefits. Any reports of workplace harassment will be met with strict disciplinary action. Marcus looked up at his fellow janitors who were reading the same email, and for the first time, he saw something new in their eyes, relief. Danielle, the assistant who had been reduced to tears over a misplaced file, was surprised to receive an apology from her manager, now desperate to save his own job. The tides had shifted. The overlooked workers, the mistreated employees, they weren't just surviving anymore. They were seen. They were heard. And they would never be invisible again. A final conversation with Lawrence Kingston. That evening, Ava sat across from her father in his office. Lawrence studied her, a glint of pride in his eyes. You took a great risk, Ava? She leaned back in her chair. I had to know the truth. And now that you do? She exhaled. I'm staying. Lawrence raised a brow. Not as your daughter. Not as a figurehead. She met his gaze. As a leader. A slow smile spread across his face. Then it looks like Kingston Enterprises has a bright future ahead. Ava nodded, a new determination in her heart. This was just the beginning. Ava's new beginning. 2 months later, Kingston Enterprises looked nothing like the company Ava had first stepped into as a janitor. The old culture of fear and intimidation had been replaced with accountability, fairness, and respect. Employees no longer walked on eggshells, dreading the next outburst from a power-hungry manager. Instead, they felt valued, protected, and most importantly, seen. The changes weren't just surface level. Policies were rewritten. Leadership was rebuilt. And trust was restored. Angela thrived as the new head of employee relations, implementing open-door policies and conducting training programs to ensure no one else endured the treatment she had suffered. The janitorial staff received not only better pay but also a voice, a seat at the table to express their concerns. And Ava? Ava stepped fully into her power. She had proven herself, not just as the CEO's daughter but as a leader in her own right. She officially joined the company's executive team, not with a silver spoon, but with experience, insight, and a mission. She had gone undercover as a cleaner, and in doing so, she had uncovered the truth about the company, about its people, and most importantly, about herself. She wasn't just inheriting her father's empire. She was reshaping it. One evening, Ava stood by the large windows of her new office, gazing at the city skyline. The view was the same, but she was different. She thought about the people she had met, Angela, Marcus, Danielle, the silent faces who had suffered in the shadows. She thought about Oliver, about the managers who had wielded power without empathy. And she thought about herself, the girl who had once believed leadership was about titles and boardrooms, only to discover that true leadership meant understanding the people you serve. Ava knew now that power, when used wrongly, destroys, but when used rightly, transforms. And that transformation had only just begun. To those who had ever been mistreated in silence. To those who had been overlooked, underestimated, dismissed. To those who had been told they were less than, unimportant, replaceable, invisible. You are not invisible. Your voice matters. And one person, just one person, with the courage to stand up can change everything. Ava had walked into Kingston Enterprises as a janitor. She had left as a leader. And now it was your turn. Stand up. Speak out. Be the change. Because the world is waiting for you to make it better.